always good to see you 2 days in a row. Right, and we now have water care coming up. Ravine, Martin, Marion and Brendan. 2, 4, how many have we got? 2, 4, 8, 10. Councillor Simpson, could you just take over 5 minutes? I do have something I have to do, I'm afraid. So, welcome. I'll let Councillor Simpson welcome you.
You just dropped your biscuit all over your chair. Good afternoon. Over to you. Ravine?
Well,
No? Brendan? Okay, Brendan.
I'll push the button.
Yes, please.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, oh great. Tu e raro, tu e waho, tu e te tangata, karanga te pō, karanga te ao, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e, ki a koutou katoa, he Tony Hera, Tamaki Makaura, tēnā koutou. Hui hui mata mō tēnei rā, ki te kōrero mō te taima water care. Nō reira, mihi mai te kōrero, tēnā koutou, kia ora. Okay. My name is Brendan Green, I'm a director on water care, and it's my privilege to share with Council our quarterly report. Apologies, Margaret cannot join us, she is overseas, out of the country, and Julia is also out of the country. So I'm on the Audit and Risk Committee and supported by our Chief Financial Officer and CEO, Ravine and Marlon. We're going to take you through our quarter. Kia ora, okay? All right, so I'll take us through the highlights. I'll hand over to Marlon to take us through the finance section, and then I'll close out, and Ravine can pop in when he feels fit. Kia ora. Okay. I think, just to paraphrase water care, how we're travelling, we're on track. Okay. And there's quite a lot of highlights for the quarter, so I'll just take you through these, and we'll start at the top. We'll move our way down. So a big highlight. And this has been part of the journey for Council and water care for many, many years. It's a privilege to be at water care while we achieve this major milestone, is we executed the contracts for Central Interceptor. Okay, so it's with Gala Albergaldi, which is a joint venture consortium from Italy. A lot of experience in tunnelling projects of this scale. And yeah, it's been quite a great milestone to achieve. We've achieved this on schedule, and the budget in terms of what we set for this project, what the contracts came in at was actually below that. And another highlight that we want to add to the Central Interceptor is we've managed to do this project and commence it. We've actually added scale. So the Greylin wastewater tunnel that we've highlighted there, that's a $100 million project. We've managed to incorporate that into CI, and it fits within the budget we had for CI. So really good outcome. Okay. In terms of risk, we're all quite mindful of risk for these projects, and we're highlighting to Council that we went to the insurance market around insurance for the project. We had a budget of 12 million. After the insurers reviewed our management processes, the risk program that we have in place, the program going forward, they priced our insurance at 7 million. So that's a great signal about the integrity of this project that we're now heading into. So I just wanted to mihi to management for being able to achieve that great outcome. Another highlight in terms of health and safety, if you look backwards, we've looked at health and safety from a perspective of making sure that we don't have accidents and harm on our sites and our operations. We've actually extended that now to wellbeing. So we've just launched a program within Watercare where we're actually working with staff and we're looking at their well-being. And with staff of around 900, it's quite easy for one to imagine that there would be well-being concerns like in any population. So we're embracing that and we've initiated a program in that regard. Okay. In terms of working with communities, a project that is high on our agenda at the current time is the Huia water treatment plant. So we have recently just lodged our resource consent application for Huia. We've actually asked for it to go fully notified. We're working with community groups. We've got a community liaison group that we've been working with for the last 2 years. And that's been really quite a powerful vehicle for us to hear the voice of the community and reshape the project, reconfigure the project that enables us to deliver a project of this scale and of this importance to Auckland, but also do it with the community at heart. So consents have now been lodged and we now go through a consultation period and that process. So just want to highlight that. Okay. Waikato District Council. This is a relationship that we're developing with WDC. Councillors will be quite mindful that in the Pōkeno area there's a lot of growth. There's 2 dairy factories that are in construction. And what's actually quite pivotal for that is the providing of water infrastructure, waste and water treatment services. So we provide that under contract to WDC. They actually contract our capacity and we are working with them towards a much bigger program where we provide our capabilities to support the WDC region. By the end of this month, we'll be receiving a revised outlook to how they would like to procure those services from Watercare. And so we'll be reviewing that and, all going well, we'll be able to consummate that relationship with WDC. Okay. There's a lot of discussion around infrastructure. And the capital program for Watercare is significant in New Zealand scale. We have a portfolio of projects that span the whole region of Tamaki Makaurau. And as we look at that, we've introduced a vision around how you can best execute on those projects. And so we've got a 40-20-20 program that we have initiated. And just so everybody understands what 40-20-20 is, we're striving to reduce our carbon footprint by 40% of our construction projects. We are striving to receive cost savings of 20%. And we're also striving to year on year improve our health and safety results. So when you have quite a big program that we've got underway, we're able to actually put this out there and challenge our contractors to fulfill on this vision. We've taken this much further in terms of an enterprise program, and we'll highlight that at the end of this back end of the slide deck. I guess any questions and from councillors? Okay.
Casey.
Just from the highlights so far, yeah.
Yes. We've been waiting for the Central Interceptor in my area for a very long time, and I've taken it upon myself to watch the end point of that project, and it mustn't ever creep out. And I'm just disappointed that there's a wee anomaly in your report here that says will be complete in 2025. It says here on our page 83, construction begins mid-2019 and will be complete in 2025.
Yeah.
Your most recent press release and everything that's on your website says by 2025.
Okay.
That's creep. That's what I mean by Central Interceptor creep.
Okay.
It's
Marlon,
by
any thoughts?
2025, which means it's being completed in 2024.
Just to answer that question, there is no creep at the moment. There is no creep. So the numbers that we're quoting, 2025, whatever we've said in the past is still on track. So there may be wording errors here, but it is on track.
So if I may just add to that, we need to be consistent. So sometimes when we're reporting financial years. So 2025 is actually the financial year, which is 2024-25. But you're right. So I think in terms of calendar years, the expectation is that we will be finished in 2024, which is in 2025 financial, yes.
Yeah. 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 And I do want to add to this, schedule has been critical for us. In the last year, we've had a work program underway with council around how we consider a financing vehicle that falls outside of the way we traditionally do it for this project. And while we worked on that program, we were quite clear that we were to maintain schedule, being the start and the end point, and we do it within the envelope of what we had forecast. So all going well. It's early days, but that schedule is maintained. Okay.
Supplementary to that, and it's the same question I usually ask as well, but
Yeah.
Congratulations on Gila Abergeldy, and I read that press release just then. And with it, you say that the Central Interceptor will clear up 80% of our wastewater overflows. When are we going to address the other 20%? When do you start talking about that? Is that after or later or now?
If I may answer that. So the other 20% is part of the work that we're doing with the Western Isthmus program. That is part of contributing towards. So basically what we're saying is building the large tunnels doesn't solve 100% of the problem, but it will contribute to solving 80% of the problem. And then we have to go into the local streets, street by street, and sorting out the capacity of the stormwater and the wastewater system. And that is basically what the Western Isthmus project is about. And if we do, and the intention is that we would do that at the same time. That's some work we're doing right now. So if we proceed on both those initiatives in that same time frame, then by 2025, we should be able to achieve more than 80%. But if the Western Isthmus program is taking longer, then whenever the Western Isthmus program is completed, we will achieve more. Overall, we're saying by 2028, 2029, we should achieve the bulk, if not 100%.
I think that's a good one to put out there rather than stop with the 80%, which is what your messaging is at the moment. I think people actually want to see the end to this. And if it is another 5 years, that's fine. We'll just put that. I think you should start saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Ravina, I suppose I should point out your maths. If you just sort of said you'll achieve 100% with the Western Isthmus, I mean, I can remind you of Blockhouse Bay, Green Bay, French Bay, Huia. They're not on the Western Isthmus, and there's plenty of other areas around. So maybe you might get to 90%, but you've still got another 10% elsewhere on various projects to make the 100%. I think.
So we're talking about just the combined sewer area.
All good. Councillor Darby.
Thank you. Ravine, you'll be aware that we are trying to hinge costs of growth back to the exacerbator, and that to the party that benefits. I'm thinking greenfields, but I'm not just thinking greenfields, brownfields. I think the last time we talked, you said that your IGC was at a 70% recovery rate. Is that correct? 70%? 70%. Has the board given any further consideration, or board and management given further consideration to ramping that 100% recovery target up? Nodding affirmatively, maybe.
Yeah. So I don't have the exact numbers, but Marlon, we can get it to you. The intention is that as we go forward, we're going to get closer to the 90% number. We're not targeting 100%, because this is not an exact science. and we don't want to run foul of the Commerce Commission or of the process. So we're going to err on the side so that developers don't start challenging us. There was an issue with North Shore City Council a few years ago with the developer contribution. So we're trying to stay away from that.
Okay, so you're currently reviewing it and you're looking to going to 90% by when?
2024.
Sorry,
2024.
2024. It's still, well, in my terms, it's still a long way away. So is there an argument why you should not move there more quickly? Because that alleviates the call upon those that are paying your water rates, does it not? That is, the general user of water is at this moment subsidising in part. It's being alleviated, but is there room to alleviate it faster?
So a few years ago, and Brian Monk is sitting in the audience, you might remember, but a few years ago we had an accelerated increase in charges for IGCs compared to our water and wastewater charges. We did come under some criticism that was stifling growth, that the industry was complaining, especially to central government, that Watercare's IGC charges were too high. And there was confusion because they were referring to it as connection charges. That, you know, it's costing them $13,000 to connect. And then we had to clarify that it's not a connection charge, it's joining the club and it's funding growth. The numbers we did said that if we just carried on the way we are increasing, so currently we're increasing our IGC at the same rate as water and wastewater charges. I think it's the wastewater charge that we are increasing the same. The numbers suggest that by 2024 we would have reached around 90% without having to have large increases. So it's sort of an automatic process. We could accelerate that by increasing IGCs by 5% instead of 3.5%, and very quickly, because it compounds, and very quickly get to that. But that isn't the current thinking.
We could borrow some more, not that we want you to ensure a bit more intergenerational equity, I suggest. But anyway, there are three people wanting to speak. I'm going to put you on hold and I'm going to ask you to resume the presentation, otherwise we will never do it.
Okay. A couple more highlights. The Hanua 4 project. So Hanua 4 has been in delivery from 2012, looking to be completed in 2020. And Amedia is the name that we've bestowed upon the tunnel boring machine for the final section. It's a 3-kilometre section. I think a lot of us have had our children at Starship over the years, and this young man here named Amedia, which means hard-working. So quite befitting of what we're doing here. And for a few of us, we consider this as our starter project to the much bigger CI. In terms of risks, we've identified here that a major risk for Watercare is maintaining that trajectory for our capital spend that's in line with budget. We've introduced what we call the enterprise model. There's a lot of discussion around infrastructure. How do you actually provide a lot more streamline of projects in the infrastructure space? Our enterprise model is actually going to do that. So we've taken our projects that are below 150 million, we've bundled them up, and as we go out over 10 years, they aggregate to 2.5 billion. Traditionally, we do projects on a project-by-project basis. And so our approach here, and this aligns with our 40-20-20, is to actually go to the market and provide a program. Provide a program of projects over the next 10 years that provides continuity, that provides an opportunity for the contractors in our community to actually align the projects to deliver us on what we're actually trying to achieve here. So we may see that certain projects we move the timeline around, but the reason for that is to give us this continuity We've initiated meetings with contractors, and we're now starting to have a process where we'll be receiving proposals. Quite exciting. This is us actually leveraging off our portfolio and our pipeline to take the construction sector to a place where it's calling to be. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just, I'm going to hand over to Marlon to take us through the next slides. Marlon.
All right. Someone can change the slide, that'd be helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Might be running out of battery.
Just from a revenue and expenditure perspective, Watercare's in a strong financial position. We've had strong growth through a dry summer and even a dry winter. It has impacted our costs. We did have an unplanned major incident with a digester out at Mangere, which impacted our ability to treat wastewater, but it didn't affect our compliance. But that incident cost us over $3 million, and it related to what we believe is trade waste discharges in late January. So obviously when businesses got back to work. We're still working through the cause of that, I think. And but in terms of CapEx, we're below our target, but a lot of that is because of the good work done in Central Interceptor, where it's a permanent difference. We didn't need as much money as we anticipated in the early stages of CI kicking off. The remaining 50-odd million in relation to that is a timing difference. We'll need to kick some of that in the next financial year, but it's timing difference in relation to better project outcomes. So we're still in a strong position. And I think that's really it from a financial perspective.
Okay.
Guys, I'm going to carry on. Okay, so we've got 16 key performance indicators, and of those 13 have been met. There are 2 that haven't been met and 1 on a watching brief. So key highlights of the 13 that have been met: drinking water, we're always compliant, there are no issues there. From a customer perspective, our response times to overflows are within our targets, as well as dry weather overflows. Our complaints are being managed very effectively, and our Net Promoter Score, which is an indicator of a net position of good versus customers who don't rate us highly. In a utility, you would expect that to be anything between -10 and +10%, and we're currently operating at 37%. So we're in a strong position in relation to customer service, and our consents are being met, fully compliant. So the 2 measures on the next slide that aren't being met relate to average consumption of drinking water. So we've had a dry summer and with some intense rainfalls, but a dry summer. And that's continuing actually as we head into winter. NIWA has in fact predicted that our winter will be 12% drier than an average year, which means consumption will continue to remain high. But there are factors in there around population data that we're working on, because we're still not quite confident we have the right population data, but we're confident we're working on plans to address consumption levels and get that back on track. In terms of real water losses, this is the amount of water lost through our reticulation networks. That is currently at 13.4% against a target of 13%. Our economic level of leakage, which is a number that justifies not spending any further money on fixing the networks, is around 11.5%. So we've still got some way to go, but we are targeting meter replacements as an obvious target area for us. We have replaced in excess of 70,000 metres in the last 3 years. We have a program to replace a further 30,000 metres in the next 12 months. And what that does is increase the accuracy of the meter recordings, because meters tend to slow over time. So that will help address some of that percentage. We are also working hard on growth. Growth seems to be an area where we are experiencing losses through the network with builder activity and a lot of water being used before our meters are connected. So we are using a term called bulk meter supply to areas that are experiencing a lot of development to then have conversations with developers around the amount of water being used and building new houses. But we are picking up areas where water is missing through that area. But otherwise, we have strong plans in place and reasonable capital expenditure over the next few years to address this issue. The measure that's on track but under a significant watching brief is in relation to wet weather overflows. This was as a result of having a extremely dry summer with intense rainfalls. So you'll see during December and January we didn't meet our target. Fortunately, through having a drier winter, we are seeing this come back on track. So at the moment, it is just a watching brief for us.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Marlon. Looking ahead, so we've got a few highlights. Yeah.
Just your microphone, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we've got some highlights in terms of our forward program. In terms of sustainability and climate change, we have installed a solar array at the Pukekohe treatment plant. And we have 2 more that are being deployed at Wellsford and Redoubt Road. The one at Pukekohe is one of the largest in the country, it's making power, and when the sun shines, and 2 more to go. In terms of trade waste, there's a review underway right now. Submissions have now closed, and so we are, watching with interest about trade waste and what that means in terms of customers in the region. In terms of Māori outcomes, this is one that we've actually got quite a lot of interest in terms of how do we create some practical outcomes or practical initiatives that help serve Māori outcomes, and really how do we change people's lives? So we work with the Kaitiaki Forum, Mana Whenua, and a lot of that kōrero is around, from a cultural or environmental aspect, we're now looking, how do we actually bring businesses that are owned by tribal members, that are owned by Pacifica members, and actually link them to our capital program. So when you look at the spend that we've got going forward, and you look at our assets that are in areas like Mangere, and the engagement we have with Mana Whenua, we want to take it to another level where we're walking in each other's shoes, and they actually provide businesses that feed into our capital program. So we've just kicked this off in terms of updating our code of conduct for procurement. It's got a commitment around bringing Māori and Pacifica businesses into our contracting base. At this stage, I think we're starting to build up an identification of who are all these businesses, and then working with parties like on CI, how we can assist those businesses become part of our ultimate procurement. One example, scaffolding. There are businesses out there that are Māori owned or Pacific owned. They've worked in Australia, they've worked at Rio Tinto and BHP. They're very close to what's required from a health and safety perspective. They've got all the gear. We've just got to help them become part of our spend. Quite excited by that, and with our joint venture partner on CI, they have taken a leadership around creating a legacy program. They actually want to have something that thrives when they've left. So they are fully embracing this, and it's quite exciting. Right? We're signatories to the Construction Sector Accord, and as we look at what the infrastructure space is trying to do with in the construction space, we are a member of that accord, but taking it further is that enterprise model that we talked about before, about actually putting that into practice. In terms of business excellence, we are halfway through the strategic transformation program. This is a program to digitise our water network that starts with projects and ends with customers. And over the next 6 months, we're actually taking that, our financial systems and starting to put them live into this new STP program that we're halfway through. So quite critical. I think the team is, STP team is working very closely with management. Management are fully engaged, and this is quite a key milestone that we're getting to. We spoke about water efficiency, meters, working with schools, working with sports clubs, and working with developers to help improve efficiency, so we don't need to take so much water from the environment. And in terms of diversity and inclusion, our Chief Operations Officer is a finalist in the 2019 Diversity Awards, Walk the Talk, Shane Morgan, so just wanted to acknowledge Shane. But that's our kōrero for this afternoon, and thank you for your attention. Questions?
Right, thank you. I'm going to move an extension of time. We have a second to Councillor Casey. All those in favour? Aye. Okay, and in saying that, can I get an indication who else has to leave at a certain time? Okay, well, we're going to lose our quorum therefore at 3:45, so, okay, we've got one RFA who's sitting there very patiently, so it's now 3:30. Councillor Walker, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Filipaina, do you have urgent questions of Watercare?
So, I'll raise a few issues, maybe give me the answers later. Obviously, there's going to be more water taken from Waikato. The Waikato water's got nitrates and nitrites, and we're familiar with the Danish studies around the impact of those on human health at even incredibly low levels. So I'd be interested in knowing what the issues are around that. Again, don't need that right now.
Yeah.
The other issue that I have, or particular area that I have, is around low carbon and taking an approach at a large level around projects. What do I mean by that? In large part, the trend is to take wastewater ever larger distances to dispose of it, generally to treat it to almost to the nth degree, but there is no reuse. So if we were adopting the waste hierarchy, the waste reduction hierarchy, which starts off with reject and then goes through reuse and the like, and we apply that to water, and you can equally apply that to sustainability and carbon reduction, you arrive at different ways of doing things and different ways of investing in assets, so that you might be recharging a river, for example, in closer proximity than showing the stuff in the sea. So I'd be interested in some feedback on that, and I'd commend you for the work that you're doing on conservation and so on.
Okay. Do you mind if I just kick off on the question? Or just for later?
Yep, he's,
Okay.
you can come back offline on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Casey?
Could you please give me the quarterly figures on water restriction, debtors, and the Water User Consumer Trust budgeting advice? They're normally contained within your report, but I can't see any skerrick.
Okay.
Thank you. No, I don't need it now.
And that can be offline as well. There is no one else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. And thank you for speeding it up at the end there. Right, councillors, what we're going to do is we're going to change the order of business.